Here with us, I'd like to introduce our special guests, Jess and Mimi from ReachOut.
And Samia from 2010. We will be addressing mental health and how and where to get help if you need it.
We also just want to acknowledge that all of us have been going through a different experience over the past couple of months. So we want to say up front, if you need to talk to someone, we've got a list of resources on our page, so don't ever hesitate to reach out.
There will be a chance to answer some questions at the end. So for those watching, you can leave a comment in the chat and we'll get to it at the end.
Samia, Jess, and Mimi, maybe you could start by sharing us a little bit about your roles and how you work with young people and how you support them and what a normal day might look like for you guys. Jess, do you want to start?
Oh, sure. Thanks for introducing me. I'm a peer moderator on the ReachOut forum. So part of my role is just looking at young people who come to the forums, like look at their posts, whether they're distressed, and offer some peer support to them. So such as through active listening, sharing previous experiences and things like that. And we also help run events on the forums, such as getting real. So they're like a live discussion, and sometimes we do other events as well, such as wellbeing activities. And thanks for introducing me.
I can go next. My name is Samia Sayed, and I work at 2010 as the Client Engagement Officer, and I run all the groups and projects and events that run through 2010. I also do a little bit of temporary case management and or incidental counselling. So that's me.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. My name's Mimi and I am a youth ambassador at ReachOut. So basically my role is to speak with the media and speak at events and share my journey with mental health and hopefully connect with some other young people going through the same sorts of things.
So in what ways have the problems and issues that those who have come and needed support and resources since COVID-19 has changed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's been about a 50% increase in the use of the ReachOut website since the whole COVID thing started. People looking for resources and support on the forums. Like most people that I've seen on the forums have either lost their jobs or they cannot find a job, or it's been a really troubling time of uncertainty and anxiety for everyone. So some people as well with existing mental health issues find that the whole COVID situation has gotten them made them feel even worse. And some people are also struggling to get appointments as well, because a lot of the previous resources are now having to be changed with more people staying at home and previous support. So that's where the online peer support forums come in. From more people are turning to them instead of as a kind of substitute for face-to-face support. And yeah, I think that's just about it.
Mimi, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think just what Jess said really is people being able to get their appointments has been a little bit harder, and just the way that they're reaching out is definitely a lot more online at the moment.
And Samia, how has 2010 kind of experienced that?
Yeah, so 2010, I forgot to mention that we are an LGBTQIA+ specific service. So 2010, when the first sort of state of emergency happened, we were quiet just because I think people didn't know we were a service that was still operating. And yeah, it took us a couple of weeks to sort of transition to more online and phone and web-based services. And since only in the last maybe month, it's really spiked in phone and web inquiries. And like I said, because we are an LGBTQIA plus specific service, there are other complex needs that were coming through in the inquiries, like people being isolated with their families and, you know, still on those journeys of gender identity and sexuality being coming through or coming more to the forefront. And also as in an LGBTQI community, I feel like we rely a lot on social connection and community gatherings, and you know, a lot of those connections were hindered in that process of you know, isolating and being at home more, and so it's taken a little while for us to get online, but we have, and I think the transition to being in person to online and still socially connecting but physically distancing has been it's been a wild ride, but we're getting there, I think.
Yeah, so with this transition from in-person to online, do you find it more difficult to connect with people who are reaching out for help? Jess, do you want to start?
I don't really find it more difficult to connect to people because that was part of my role anyway, because ReachOut is primarily an online-based mental health service. But it is a bit like of a struggle sometimes just to like refer people to other kinds of supports, because some of them are operating differently because of the whole COVID situation, and some people, you know, really need to access face-to-face supports, or they need some kind of physical supports as well, but it's a bit hard for people to access them at the moment. So I've seen a lot more people in crisis or distressed than what we would have usually.
Yeah, Mimi, do you have anything to add?
I think obviously a lot of face-to-face events and face-to-face support in the mental health community have had to be cancelled or postponed in this time. So it's really just using those platforms like we're doing tonight to connect with people online so that we can still get that message out there.
And Samia, at 2010, would you say that there's been a disconnect?
Yeah, there has been. At first, there was a lot of cancellations because I'm in groups and projects, so pretty much all of my programs were suspended. And then it took a couple of weeks for us to sort of get into and transition into an online space. And it's definitely been challenging, but also really rewarding, because now we're not just centralized to the city, our services or our social support services. It means that we can actually reach out further in New South Wales, and there have been people accessing from that don't necessarily often come to the city or Chippendale, where most of my services our programs are run. On the other hand, I'm going to have to agree with Jess that there is some physical supports that have been slowed down, which is like food outreach, access to food, access to different brokerage. And face-to-face is definitely really an important part of mental health practicing, but it has been kind of amazing to see how flexible it's become as well. So that's where we're at.
Since all of our lives have been affected by COVID-19 in some way, what are some things that young people can do to help them cope? Jess, do you want to start?
Sure. Here are some of the things I thought of. They don't really have to apply to everyone, and everyone is different in terms of the kinds of things that work for them. Some of the things that I thought of and have been doing myself are self-care and gratitude journaling. So I'm trying to think of some positives that are coming out of a negative situation. And I've also made a list of the places that I want to go and things that I want to do once the restrictions are lifted, so I have something to look forward to. And another thing I've done is writing a list of what I can control and what I can't control, because a lot of the anxiety about the situation is about the coping with uncertainty, and we don't really like how uncomfortable it is and not knowing what's going to happen in the future and things being out of our control. And Another thing that people can do is scheduling time to think about their worries or writing them down, and thinking about which worries they can act on now and which are out of their control, and which are real problems and which are hypothetical worries, and maybe thinking about the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and the most reasonable scenario, and how to prepare themselves for it. And other things that we can do is we can't 100% predict the future, and just because like we have a worrying thought, we don't necessarily have to act on it, and it doesn't mean that it's true. And by staying at home, we're actually helping the healthcare system as well, to deal with the virus. Other things I've thought of are practicing self-compassion, such as I do this with myself sometimes, what I would say to a friend going through that situation, because we tend to be more harsh on ourselves and more kinder towards our friends. And other people can also reach out to trusted friends, family members, and other supports as well. You can also do practical things like planning pleasant or happy events, such as movie nights, board games, doing something creative, and thinking about how they make you feel and whether you want to add them as part of your routine. Other things you can do is reading positive news, and it's perfectly fine as well to take a break from the news or social media if you feel like you need to focus on your mental health. There's also services for people experiencing loneliness, such as the Red Cross COVID Connect, which is a free service for people who are feeling socially isolated, and Friendline as well, which is a service for people who are feeling lonely. And of course, there's also the ReachOut forums for young people to connect with people our age, and get some support from them.
What about you, Mimi? Anything to add?
Yeah, so some of the coping mechanisms I've been doing in this time are things that I do normally to cope with anxiety and stress as well. But I guess I'm really into art, so doing a bit of art therapy I find is really kind of soothing, and it gets you, I guess, out of what's going on at the moment into a nice, happy place. And like cooking and self-care, reaching out to friends and family through like Zoom calls, calling them on the phone rather than seeing them face to face. I've also done something similar to Jess, which was creating like a little bucket and putting anything that I wanted to do that I can't do, like writing it down and putting it in there, so that at the end I've got like a list of happy things to do. And yeah, just kind of allowing yourself to not feel okay if it's a little bit stressful at the moment, because we're all going through a hard time, and yeah, we don't know that like how it's going to be, but we're all going to get through that.
And Samia, what about you? Any advice?
In terms of coping mechanisms for myself, like personally, I've been cooking so much. I think I've eaten a pie a day, and a really good coping mechanism, which I, have practiced in the past, is doing a morning diary. So waking up and actually brain dumping everything on a piece of paper, and just sort of freeing my brain space up a little bit for the rest of the day. It's like kind of like even write your dreams down, because I know that I've heard from a lot of people, and myself included, that dreams have spiked, like dreams have become quite different and maybe more vivid in these times. Do you want me to give like a service perspective of like some things that people have been doing to cope as well, or is that coming up a bit later? You
can add that now, that'd be great.
Great, yeah. Perfect. So from a service perspective, you can call us 2010 at 8594 9555 if you're having a hard time and you need to access counselling, or want to inquire about housing, or our social support side of things. I might be the person that answers the phone call, but you're welcome to call us to inquire about that. There's Headspace. There's usually a Headspace locally to you wherever you live. You can give them a call. I think they've been transitioning their counselling appointments online. There's QLife. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of QLife, but it's a web and phone counselling service if you need to reach out to someone to call or talk to. And that's available for all ages. Even for families of folks who are LGBTQIA+, that service is available. and that's a web or phone counselling service. There's the Gender Centre, and the Gender Centre have also transitioned their counselling to an online space or to a phone space. So you can give them a call to inquire about counselling if they have capacity. There's ACON, and then there's 1-800-RESPECT. So they're all different organisations and services that you are welcome to call and inquire about counselling, or even just to someone to talk to. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those. That's all really, really useful for everyone watching. So this next question really ties into what you guys were saying before. As people who work in the mental health field, how has your own mental health been going in this time of isolation and quarantine? And what are the ways which you've coped with any negative thoughts or anything like that? Jess, you can start.
I think it's just been very up and down. My mental health is generally okay, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed because there are increased numbers of people coming onto the forums and increased people in crisis or distress, and it's hard for me to talk to everyone. So yeah, and it's also been a bit hard as well with my family as well, because I'm also a young carer. So like when my family members' appointments have had to all be moved to telehealth or being physically inside the house. So it's also been a bit hard for that as well, because when for example, when they are in when my sister is in hospital, that was actually part of our respite, so that we had people taking care of her when she goes to hospital. But now with her being at home and unable to be admitted to hospital, it's kind of like we have to take care of her more often at home and provide a lot of the care ourselves. So yeah, I've just been coping with the worries and stuff by trying to think of the positive things, doing a lot of self-care, and I've also been trying to get things done while in self-isolation. So someone online I read mentioned doing things every day that give you pleasure, that you feel a sense of accomplishment and make you feel close to other people. So it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Like it can just be decorating your house or your room or something like that, doing some gardening or cooking or something with your family and things like that.
Mimi, what have you been doing?
So some of the things that I've been using to cope, I've been seeing my psychologist still online. So we do like a FaceTime call every couple of weeks rather than going in to seeing her in the office. I think it's really important to keep up doing those things during this. Lots of self-care. So just things that make me happy, art, going for a walk, like getting outside and not just staying inside the whole time is really important. Even if you can sit outside on like your balcony or your front garden. As well as that, lots of cooking. My like sleeping and eating habits had changed up a little bit with my new, I guess, daily routine. So just making sure that I'm just doing the same things that I would do normally in regards to that, and trying to, get a good night's sleep as well can really help with anxiety and stress during this.
And Samia, how has your mental health been during this time, and what have you been doing to cope?
My mental health has been okay. Like it's an up and down situation. So like I mentioned before, I sort of get up in the morning and I really brain dump to like on a piece of paper to see what's going on for me, to clear my head. It can get overwhelming, especially working within a sort of mental health organization or an organization that works with crisis. A lot of people in crisis quite a bit, just similarly to you, Mimi and Jess. And I think it's about actually being honest with myself and my capacity. So knowing that it's actually okay not to be productive, and not necessarily having to constantly fill my time with things to make me feel like I've again been productive. But yeah, it's been quite interesting because I notice more things about, I've noticed more things about myself in the last couple of months than I ever have in my 34 years of living on Earth. So it feels equally as like I'm learning, gaining knowledge, but equally as knowing how to be really honest about my capacity. But yeah, that's me.
So Samia, I know a lot of 2010's programs are in person, face to face. So how have you moved online and how's that changed for you and your job?
Well, I've learned a lot of technical things as of late, or more, more how to know or how to use different platforms. So I've never used Zoom before COVID, and it's been such a really amazing learning space to know how to use Zoom. And our social support group, all of my groups have kind of melded into one, onto a Discord chat that we open live every fortnight. And if you'd like the link to that, feel free to email me on samia@2010.org.au. And I'll just ask you a couple of questions to confirm that you are between the ages of 12 to 25. And you get to link into our Discord group. And every fortnight, either we do a cooking tutorial, you get to just chat into in general, in whatever channels we have open. Just a general chat, or I think next week it's on from 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, and we're going to do online games. So yeah, we get quite a bit of traffic on Discord. Yeah, that's pretty much how my social program has transformed from being in person to online. And there's a whole bunch of other activities happening from other organizations, which I can also recommend. Minus 18. If you're following their social media, they've got a whole bunch of activities happening online. Headspace, which is a fortnightly chat forum for LGBTQIA youth. And then there's a really awesome yoga instructor called Daisy, who is doing LGBTQIA yoga. So, and they do it every Sunday and Monday. I'll link you to all of these a bit later, and maybe you can pop them on your GENEXT social media. I'm not sure if that's possible, but yeah. And then there's someone called Grumble Boogie. So Grumble Boogie does every day at 10 a.m. in the morning, does a really awesome aerobics dance class. And she's super queer and super amazing, and it's kind of like a bit of a drag dance class, if you want to call it that. But yeah, that's pretty much my answer to that question, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Those all sound really fun. So next question is, since obviously we can't see our friends or family as often, what are some signs that we can notice online that a friend needs somebody to help them, or just how to check in on our friends when we're not getting those in-person signs? Jess?
Okay, so some online signs that I've noticed personally are people responding out of the ordinary. Like, for example, they might send a lot of messages that one after the other, super quickly, that sometimes suggests that they're in distress. And sometimes they might also make short responses, like, I don't know, yeah, okay, I don't know. Sometimes I've seen that some people do that when they're in distress. Sometimes they might put sad emojis, or they might have some worrying status messages, or just a general change in their online behavior, or a loss of interest in things that made them happy before. So we can ask them how they're feeling, in an open-ended way, rather than too many yes or no questions. So I find that asking them how are you doing sometimes gives a better response, rather than just saying you're doing okay. And what questions are also good to give them more of a chance to say how they're feeling and what's been going on for them. And we can also show empathy and summarize what they're saying. For example, we can say, sounds to me like, or so in other words, what you're saying is, what I'm hearing you say is. And we can also try to identify their emotions. And it's okay if you don't get it right. You can say, I would be feeling overwhelmed too if I were in your shoes. And a lot of people appreciate you not finding a solution for them straight away or suggesting things straight away. My approach is generally to ask them how they are and try and empathize with them and show support for them. And there's also things like saying, I hear you rather than I know how you feel. If they are in some kind of crisis, the best thing that you can do is keep talking to them and possibly try to distract them. And you can also share with them some crisis resources or websites or numbers such as Lifeline, Kids Helpline, and the Suicide Callback Service. So if you're chatting to them online, you can stay with them while they access the service or wait for the service, because there's been a lot of queues recently with all the people contacting these kinds of services and a lot of delays. Sometimes people don't get in when they want to speak to someone. It's also really helpful to check in on them from time to time, such as by phone or text or an online message like, hey, how are you feeling now? I'm here for you. I've also found a lot of good resources online, such as psychological first aid courses. I found them really relevant to the whole COVID-19 situation because they teach, a lot of them teach active listening techniques and how to cope with people who are in crisis or distress, how to respond to them, and how to calm the situation down and care for yourself at the same time. And there are also some apps that can help you plan a conversation, like where you want to check in on someone, like the check-in and chats for life. You can find them on the ReachOut website under the tools and apps section. And Are You Okay.org has a good collection of signs that you can look out for that you need to have a conversation with someone who might be going through a tough time. And that's about it.
Thank you, Jess. Mimi, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I guess some ways that you can tell maybe somebody's struggling a little bit online is if they disappear from social media, I guess, like all of a sudden, which can be a really healthy thing to do, to have a break, but maybe just check in on them and make sure that they're okay. Also, if they're posting disturbing or upsetting content that maybe they wouldn't normally post, or if they shout out that they're feeling alone or upset, things like that. So I guess to help them with that, check in with them, like call them, send them a message. You could even create like a daily check-in system with one of your friends. So like every day you guys just both check in on each other, see how you're doing so that you still have that support there. And yeah, helping them, I guess, looking into online resources or get them help, but also just listening to them as well. So not just trying to fix it straight away, but just being there to listen to them and what they need.
And Samia, anything to add?
Actually, everybody said most of everything I was going to say anyway. So I think, you really amazing points, Mimi and Jess. The only thing I'm going to add is, making plans is a really good idea, just following on from what you're saying, Mimi. So sort of daily planning with them, or the people that you've noticed are having a hard time. And the other thing I just really quickly want to mention is that caring for yourself in this moment is really good too. So if you are noticing someone that is struggling and you're having a big chat to them, that giving a time limit is also good and healthy for yourself as well. So being like, I'm really aware of the time. I feel like, I'm just super aware of the time. I want to get you the best support possible as soon as possible. And also, that's one thing. That's one way you can care for yourself and the person that you're talking to at the time. So big ups to Mimi and Jess. You're doing such an amazing job.
So unfortunately, we've run out of time to answer some of the Q&A questions. So I'd just like to thank Samia, Jess and Mimi for joining us tonight. It's been an amazing experience. I think we've all learned something and definitely got something to take away from this.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody watching. We really hope that you've taken something away. So we hope you enjoyed the talk and have a nice evening.